Good morning, class. My name is Lydia Badu Dankwa, and you are welcome to the presentation for Lee 802, Chain Theory and Practice. The topic for my presentation this morning is Exploring Organizational Change, a critical analysis of selected change models, creator and premix, practical application, and limitation. Today, my presentation centers around change models, particularly for the case of this presentation. The agenda is in the introduction, the selected change model, relevance of the model and topic in today's business environment, the thesis statement, background of the model, real-world application of the model, limitations and critiques of the model, and how to address the critiques of the model. And conclusion, then we would have our references. So innovation is definitely a must for firms who want to stay competitive, but it's also imperative to examine steps or ways in which change can be achieved successfully, because change management models help organizations to navigate through various organizational problems or situations. For our introduction, and going forward, we have various change models and theories, but for the sake of our presentation today, we are going to stick with the Bridges transition model. Today's organization, we are in a constant state of transformation. And whether through digitalization, restructuring, or ordinary leadership changes, it is imperative for us to look at how to go about every change that might be encountered by organization. For our presentation, we are going to focus on the Bridges transition model, which shift the focus from what of the change to how the people feel about the change itself, making it particularly relevant in today's business landscape. The model is highly relevant in modern business environments because it's more agile and resilient, and it centers on the individual. The key themes of this model includes psychological change phases, which include ending, neutral zoning, and new beginnings. And the thesis statement of this model is that the Bridges transition model offers a more effective framework for mitigating resistance in people-centric organizational change than traditional change management models, because it primarily focuses on psychological loss and neutral zone navigation, directly addresses the individual employees' experiences. Consequently, this presentation argues for the mandatory inclusion of transition planning in all large-scale internal transformations. So we are going directly to look at the historical background of the Bridges transition model. And this model was introduced by William Bridges. And let's say in his early books, Making Sense of Life Changes in 1980, and it evolved into Managing Transitions in 1991, a practical guide for organizations. Bridges differentiated between change, like transition, and then change. And he said that change is actually situational, like implementing a new policy, while transition is the internal emotional processes people experience in adapting to the change itself. So he emphasized psychological transitions, individual experiences during organizational change, and focusing on how people let go of the old and embrace the new. And it outlines three main phases, which is the ending phase, the neutral zone, and the new beginnings. There are pretty much some scholars who have vehemently supported the Bridges transition model, while including Bridges himself in his work in 2004, 2009, and according to Gailey 2018, this model is effective in addressing emotional resistance by helping organizations understand the human side of transitions. And Shai and Mills 2010 also, the analysis also praises the roots of the model in Kubler-Ross growth stages adapted for organizations to address emotional undercurrents, which are often times ignored in rational or traditional models. So this diagram actually explains the Bridges transition model into details, and it starts with the ending phase. At this point, it looks at the point at which employees must release old identities, systems, and habits, like move to the transition zone or the neutral zone. And during the transition zone, there is usually anxiety, there is resistance, there is confusion because people don't know what to expect, or people are not really ready for the change that is going on. And then we have the new beginning, and the new beginning is characterized by when employees internalize new behaviors, values, and purpose. And at this point, there is high accomplishment, there's high energy for learning, and there's relief because the people now understand, or they have adapted to the change quite well. So we have some practical implications for the model. And we're saying that the model has human-centered design, emphasizing psychological readiness, the ease of interaction with other structured models like Court's 8 steps process helps in its adaptability. And its focus on emotional alignment promotes trust and resilience. Take, for instance, a banking institution implementing digital transformation. Employees may fear losing familiar tasks or roles, and so might be resistant towards the firm, towards the change, sorry. But when leaders come in with support, training, and encouragement, they are going to be able to push them from the ending phase through the neutral phase and then to the beginning phase, because they would have the support and the confusion is going to clear, and at a point they would be relieved that they adapted to this change, which is in turn going to bring about high returns. So real world application of this change model in a leadership context such as mergers. I have encountered mergers before, and this would have been a very great process to help us adapt very well. A 2023 case at an European bank applied this model to integrate cultures of post-acquisition, and this really helped the firm. And during the COVID-19 pandemic, many organizations used the Bridges transition model. Here, leaders encouraged open communication and showed empathy in order to ease the transition into the neutral zone, where workers adjusted to different patterns of work and technological innovations, thus creating trust. So for the weaknesses, definitely, though the model has a lot of strengths and good aspects to it, there are definitely a weakness to it as well. And one of its key weaknesses is that it assumes somewhat linear progression. Real transitions are messy, and it's also influenced by culture and power. So it is not just about the individual psyche or mental or emotional issues, but also transitions are not generally very straightforward, and there can be power interplays. And the overemphasis of emotional aspects, which can also result in operational challenges, being overlooked during the change process. So the lack of structural guidance, it doesn't really specify actionable steps and the metrics or timeliness. And there's also an issue of cultural biases, since this model would really fit in the individualistic cultures of the Western world. This might not necessarily work when it comes to African setting, where it's not really individualistic. It's a community-based kind of thing, and people will not really adapt well to this model. But the implications of this is that the firm could actually merge this model with other models like the Cortex model or the ADKAR framework, which would help to bring a bit of structure and move towards the organizational level and not dwell a lot on the individual level of the transitions model. When we go to addressing the limitations of this model, we could pair the Bridges emotional mapping with Cortex agency building, like I said, for hybrid efficacy. And also we could integrate the model with quantitative assessment tools to evaluate organizational readiness more effectively. Quantitative tools like surveys and readiness indices can also provide actionable data, which can help ensure that everything is as it's supposed to be and not just about the emotions there again. And also, additionally, they can tailor the model's phases, that is the ending, the neutral zone, and the new beginnings to specific organizational context, which can improve its applicability generally and also address unique operational challenges. So in conclusion, the Bridges transition model offers a defensible psychological lens for change, mediating adaptation through ending, neutral zone, and new beginnings, yet also demands qualifiers like cultural integration to avoid the oversimplification in dynamic organizations. From the analysis, the thesis statement has been demonstrated that truly Bridges transition model offers a more effective framework for mitigating resistance in people-centric organizational change than traditional change management models, because its primary focus is on psychological loss and neutral zone navigation, which directly addresses the individual employee experience. And consequently, this presentation argues for the mandatory inclusion of transition planning in all large-scale, or let's say mid to large-scale internal transformations. And synthesizing all the sources I took my work from Proxy, What's to other scholarly critics, the overarching message is really clear. And that is true change mastery blends the heart and also strategy in prioritizing emotional agility to conquer resistance and unlock innovation. These are my references. Thank you so much for your attention. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me at dankwael@carolinau.edu. Thank you.